Hi, my name is Jim Harriman. I'm going to talk to you about some things you might want to consider for your digital strategy heading into 2021. I think we can all agree 2020 was a pretty crazy year, and we saw some massive growth online that we're going to talk about here in a bit. A lot of companies and clients that I talk to are planning on doubling down their spend online and really focusing on those new online customers. But I think there are some things that we might want to consider about how customers will continue to shop going into 2021 and certainly into 2022. So we'll explore some of that in this presentation. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Jim Harriman. Thanks for joining. I want to talk to you today about 2021 considerations as it relates to your marketing spend and initiatives. I think we can all agree that 2020 was a pretty unique year. We saw a lot of customers, new customers shopping online, and we saw massive growth across a number of verticals. We also saw a pretty large expansion in convenient services and offerings from brands that I think customers are going to adopt and expect in the future. As a result, a lot of customers and brands that I speak with are planning on spending marketing dollars the same way they did in 2020. And I think that might be a mistake. I think we're going to start to see some changes in 2021 and certainly 2020, I hope. And it might make you consider or reconsider how and where to spend your dollars. So let's get started. As I mentioned, and as you all know, we saw a huge surge in online shopping. Health and wellness, fitness, home improvement, entertainment, subscription services, all massive growth. We also saw an explosion in convenience service offerings as well, like buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickup, expansion in private delivery. Again, I don't think any of these are going to go away. Customers love them, they're in demand now, and they're certainly expected. That being said, a lot of brands are going to double down online in pretty traditional ways. Part of the reason why we saw e-commerce grow to more than 30% in 2020, which far exceeded expectations from forecasts coming out of 2019. 14.4% of all US retail sales were online and 20.6% if you exclude gas and auto. The top 10 e-commerce players accounted for 63.2% of all online sales. Again, these are all stats that far surpassed expectations coming out of 2019. The most notable stat coming from Shopify, at least in my opinion, is this one right here. Q1 alone, so within 3 months, global online shopping exceeded 10 years worth of estimated growth. Pretty amazing, and no wonder why brands and budgets are all going and continuing to go aggressively online. But there are some things that, again, customers and brands and marketing managers need to consider. First and foremost, e-commerce is expected to decelerate rapidly this year, drop down to 6.1%. Originally, we expected double-digit growth in 2021. If you go back and look at 2019 forecasts, but because of the growth and surge we saw in 2020, we're clearly not going to see that. So, although online is still going to continue to grow, it's not going to grow nearly at the rate we anticipated. Another thing to consider, customer acquisition on average is going to increase slightly to about $30 on average, according to Statista. There's nuances with this data that you really kind of have to look into. Different verticals are not going to be impacted the same way, but generally speaking, you can expect to pay a little bit more as a brand to acquire your customer in 2021, your online customer, that is. Also, shipping expenses are expected to go up in 2021 by at least 5%. So this is going to cut into margin. It might require customers start paying for shipping at some level. It might require shipping alternatives. So rather than 2-day or next day free shipping, customers might have to expect standard, 5 to 7 day, 5 to 10 day shipping. So all things to take into consideration, of course. What does this all mean, though? We know that 2021, hopefully anyway, knock on wood, isn't going to be anything like 2020. 2020 as it relates to online shopping. Therefore, our budgets and how we spend those budgets shouldn't be the same as well. Online is going to continue to grow again at a rate a little over 6%, but you still are going to need to reconsider how you spend those dollars. You're going to need to be more flexible, more dynamic than you were in 2020, if you can believe it. Customers want to get out. I want to get out. You want to get out. Everyone wants things to go back to normal, right? We want to start shopping in stores again. We want to stop wearing face masks. All that stuff will happen in time. But it's not going to happen, I think, in the same way pre-COVID. People are going to shop much more locally. Part of that is because more people are working from home, and that's something that likely isn't going to change either. I know I will continue to work from home for the foreseeable future. So when I do go out to the store, it's going to be within a 3 to 5 mile radius. I'm not going very far. So brands, whether they're local brands or national brands, are going to have to try to figure out how to engage that customer in a way that's much more relevant and much more catered to them. The long and short of it, omni-channel, right? We need to figure out how to tie together the online and offline world in a much more effective way. Now, don't get me wrong, we made some great strides in 2019 and 2020 as it relates to online and offline, but there's still a lot of improvement that customers are going to demand, and it's going to require time and investment and innovation from brands. There was a quote from LinkedIn that I really liked. It resonated with me. In 2020, a new standard has been set. Online is offline and offline is online, meaning the customer isn't going to delineate the difference between the two. The expectation, whether they're shopping online or offline, isn't going to change. They want continuity, they want convenience, and they want consistency as it relates to their experience. Customers are expecting offline tracking of online activities and vice versa. And brands, to bring back maybe a cliche word from a handful of years ago, brands will need to be much more omni-channel, more so than ever. Customers are going to expect that flexibility and convenience, and they are going to expect responsible, personalized shopping experiences at scale. The other thing to take into consideration when thinking about budgets and how they should be spent online and how you're going to engage consumers is where people spent their money in 2020. According to CNBC, they came up with some interesting facts that incorporated people's travel budget. I don't know about all of you, but I desperately miss this view. Looking out of a plane, I used to travel a lot, like many of you, and I look forward to hopefully getting back to traveling soon. But my travel budget kind of went out the window last year, as did many. There was no more travel for work. We had vacations planned, we had weddings planned. All of that money that was budgeted for those trips did not get spent on those trips. Again, according to CNBC, most of that money for most consumers went into savings, went into investment, and then went into retail like pets, education, home improvement, and investing. Now, in 2021 and certainly in 2022, that money that was spent in retail that was originally allocated by families and individuals for travel will not get spent in retail again. So we're going to see some decline potentially in certain areas because of that, because people's spending habits will go back to normal. So when we're trying to comp our budgets year over year, if you're a brand where a lot of customers, if you can figure this out, spent their travel budget at your store or on your products or on your services, that's going to come into play for sure as you head into 2021 and 2022. Another thing, or I should say 4 things to take into consideration and maybe take away from this presentation is you need to be much more omni-channel than ever. And again, this is a cliche word from years ago, but I think it rings more true now than it did even then. Customers are going to be shopping cross-device, online and offline, more so than ever. You have all those offline shoppers that are now online. They're going to become your hybrid shoppers. They're going to want continuity and convenience. They're going to want consistency. You're going to have to think and plan and execute locally, even if you're a national brand, because people's bubbles are going to get a little bit smaller and they're not going to go as far to shop, at least for the next year to potentially 2 years. And last but certainly not least, this is going to require a lot of innovation and a lot of technology and a lot of development. There are lots of companies out there that provide technologies to accommodate for a number of these considerations. If you're a big brand, you should consider looking into these technologies and leveraging their existence if you want to rapidly scale and serve your customers. Thank you for listening to this presentation. I really appreciate it. I wish you all a successful and healthy 2021.